Hi, my name is Bente, I'm the Norse Witch, and today's topic is maybe a little bit of a controversial one because it is part of this whole sphere of deity work, spirit work, everything around that, which is always a little bit controversial. There are a lot of opinions about topics in this field. So what I want to talk about today is basically how you would want to approach a spirit or a deity, especially when you want their help, how or if you should form relationships with them first, everything around that. And of course, to preface this is just my personal opinion. I come from a very specific background, a very specific tradition and practice. I am a Norse pagan, so I am religious. I do work with deities and in general with spirits heavily. I work with my ancestors, I work with animal spirits, as I said, with multiple deities, I work with plant spirits, so my practice is very spirit work heavy. So of course that is the background that I'm coming from. That is not the only background there is, my opinion is not the only opinion there is. That is why I already said it's probably a little bit controversial. There will be people who will probably disagree with everything that I say. Most probably people who are very much into high magic and ceremonial magic, because in those practices, spirits and deities and angels and everything around that are approached very differently. So if you disagree with what I say, that's totally fine. I just want to argue my point here because, of course, probably those people who watch my channel will align most probably with what I practice. So yeah, I just want to argue my point here and have a little discussion about this topic. But of course, if you disagree with me, if you are of a completely different opinion, then please tell me in the comments, because I just know the practice and the traditions that I come from. So I personally find it extremely interesting to just hear other people's opinions. So if your opinion differs from mine, then please tell me in the comments. I would be very much happy to read about other approaches to this topic. As I already said, I would like to focus on the point of how you would approach a spirit or a deity if you want their help. So let's say you want to cast a money spell, you want to cast a spell to bring in money, and you want a spirit or a deity's help for that. For some reason or another, of course you could do it without any help, but let's say you want a help from a spirit or a deity for some kind of spell. How would you do that? When I personally started practicing, probably all of the books, or at least most of the books that I read, said things like, oh, you want to cast this money spell, then just cast a circle, call in this deity, because this deity corresponds with the intention of drawing in money. Call them into your circle when you start casting the spell, when you start the ritual, call them into your circle, then ask them for help, and then in the end, release them from your circle and you're good to go. Sometimes, and that was already like the nicer books, they would mention something like prepare an offering for them. And then when you have called them into your circle, tell them what you want, give them your offering, and then they will help you. But it's basically the approach of working with a deity or a spirit as a vending machine, as I like to call it, because that's basically what you're doing. You are standing there as a mere human being, like, I call you into my circle, and now here, have this offering, I give you something, and now you will help me with the spell, and then I will release you from the circle, I will let you go. And that, to me, is a little bit weird. But there are also approaches that are even harsher than that, where you would basically call in a spirit or a deity, and then you would kind of command them around, you would just tell them what to do, and then you would release them in the end. And yeah, the point that I want to argue is that maybe that is not the best way to approach a spirit or a deity, even if you want their help. At least that is the case in the traditions that I practice and in my experience, because since the first example that I mentioned, was mentioned in basically any book that I read when I started out as a practitioner. Of course, I tried that because that is just the thing that I knew. The focus in books when I started out was never about forming a relationship with a spirit or a deity. It was usually just call them in, ask them for something, and let them leave. So of course, that is what I tried, and it was never effective. It never felt good. It never led to a positive result. So at some point, I just stopped doing it until I started properly working with deities and spirits and forming a relationship with them, building altars for them, communicating with them, and not just calling them in, letting them do something and then let them leave. And I personally always like to think about it this way. If a random person came up to you in the streets, you have never seen them before, they have never talked to you before, they have never done anything for you before, but a random person, a random stranger comes up to you in the streets and asks you to help them move. Maybe there is a truck in front of their house and they ask them to move furniture with them into their house. Would you do it? Probably not. I mean, if you're especially nice and you have the time, you have nothing better to do and you feel like working out, then maybe you would do it. But how big are the chances that you would do that? They're probably pretty slim. And in my experience and in my opinion, that is the same with spirits and deities and any entity. If you just call them in, first of all, commanding them in, basically calling them in, you can ask them to come to you, you can invite them, but calling them in, commanding them in, debatable. Because why should they obey to what you say? Yeah, calling in a spirit or a deity that you have never worked with, that you have never approached, that you haven't even basically introduced yourself to, and then asking them to do something for you, why should they? They probably have a lot of better things to do than to help a random person, because if you think of it, there are probably hundreds, thousands of people who approach this entity and want them to do something for them. Why should they help you especially if you have never done anything for them? I mean, if you give them this one random offering, maybe if this offering is special, or maybe if they're just an especially nice entity, maybe there are entities who don't need a relationship with you, because yeah, there are also very, very nice people who will do anything for anyone without getting anything back. But most people, as well as most entities, most spirits, most deities, will probably not be that way. So, as I said, in my experience, as I said, that's my background, my experience, my traditions, forming a relationship first will be much, much more effective. As I said, when I still practiced the way where I would just call them in, ask a random deity for something, and then let them leave, nothing really ever worked. But now that I have formed proper relationships with deities and with other spirits, sometimes I don't even need a spell for that. Like if I need their help, most of the times it works if I just ask them and then something will happen. So for example, very, very recently, I just randomly asked Thor to help me with some money stuff. I mentioned that in my weekly vlog. I asked him to help me out with a money issue. I did nothing else. I didn't cast a spell for money. I didn't do anything really. I just asked him. It was just part of my regular practice where I would regularly give him offerings and I just randomly asked him to help me out. And he did. For me personally, this is much more effective than just calling in a random deity. Especially if you think of it as, I will look for a deity that fits my intention, a deity that corresponds with my spell intention, that just already feels wrong because it kind of feels like you are treating a deity or a spirit as an ingredient. I already kind of dislike it to do that with herbs and crystals, but doing that with spirits just feels especially wrong to me personally. So in my opinion and also in my experience, deities and spirits are very, very powerful and they can help us out immensely, especially deities. But yeah, maybe we should approach them with a lot of respect and a lot of humility because they are more powerful than us in the end. If they weren't, why would we ask them to do something for us? If they weren't able to do something that we can't. Yeah, my point is basically be respectful, probably form a relationship with a deity or a spirit before you ask something of them. Don't handle them or don't approach them as a vending machine, because they are not. They have better things to do than do what we want or what we ask them to. And I mean, that doesn't even require that much work. It doesn't require a separate altar most of the times. Of course, depending on the deity or the spirit in question, depending on the tradition and the culture that they're from, it will work a little bit differently. But most of the time, you won't need an altar for that. You won't need expensive tools. Most of the time, what you really need is just your own voice, because, well, maybe if you want to start forming a relationship with a spirit or a deity, maybe you should just start out by introducing yourself to them. I got asked about how to start approaching a spirit or a deity so many times, but just introduce yourself. Just tell them who you are, why you want to form a relationship with them, why you're giving them an offering maybe. Talk to them. That will probably help. I mean, if you want to form a relationship with another human, you probably talk to them too, so why not do it with deities and spirits? If you want maybe some kind of focal point or some kind of signal for you both to communicate, then maybe get them a random candle or something, but you don't even need that. You just need yourself, your body, your voice. You don't even need to give physical offerings like food or incense or water or drinks or anything like that. You can talk to them, you can give them your energy and your time, you can spend time with them, you can do things for them, you can do things in their honor. You can communicate with them and ask them what they want you to do. It can be really very, very simple. The most important thing is just that you show them that you are willing to respect them, to honor them, to basically give back. Because in the end, you want something from them. So of course you should show them that you are able and also willing to do something for them in return. In my experience, this is much, much more effective, forming a relationship first and then asking something from a deity or a spirit than doing it the other way around. And that will also enable you to get to know this spirit or this deity. So in the end, you will know and really know what they can even help you with. And that will be much, much better than just looking at basically a list of correspondences with, I don't know, I want to draw in money and this is the list of deities that I could use for that purpose. It will be much, much more effective if you have formed a relationship with them and know what they are about, what's their thing, or what are their things basically. And then you can also ask them what they would be willing to help you with, because I don't know, maybe they would be able to help you with something, but they don't want to for some reason. Long story short, deities and spirits aren't vending machines. They should be approached with respect. And in my experience, it is much more effective to form a proper relationship with them if you want something from them. I would really, really, really like to know your opinions in the comments, especially if you disagree with me, because I feel like probably in the broader witchcraft community, probably a lot of people will agree with me. But if you practice like high magic, ceremonial magic, things like that, then please tell me in the comments how you would approach a deity or a spirit that you want help from. I would really like to learn. Before I close this video though, of course, very important, a patron shout out. Thank you so much for supporting me. Sigrun, Ashley, Erika, Sturfried Stars, Mars Mortis, Christine, Christopher, Glacier, Gael, August, The Court Jester, Tia, Fabienne, Tammy, Me, Jella, JB, Tim, Anna, Laura, Amber, Kristen, John, Ivy, Phoenix, Anton, Noemi, Jenny, Tyler, Els, Maggie, Betty, Misty, Tiffany, Amy, Colette, Tell, Timothy, Coffee, or the Honorary Gossip Squirrel, Bjorn, and Ash. Thank you so much. As always, I really hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you don't hate me now. If you did like the video, of course, make sure to subscribe and give a thumbs up because it really helps, and leave a comment, of course. You can check out all of my other socials. Of course, check out my online shop because I have a lot of things for deity and spirit work there. And even if I don't have anything for your specific deity or spirit, just hit me up and I will make something work. And yeah, I will see you in the next video. Bye!